giraffes. We know this because they have a prehensile purple tongue, just like giraffes, and ossicones on the top of their heads. On our left side, there are some saddle-billed storks hanging out up on that hill. Now, saddle-billed storks are pretty cool because they can get to about 5 feet tall when they're just standing, which is roughly, how tall a lot of us are. But also, their wingspan is just about as wide as that canopy up above your heads, about 9 feet wide from tip to tip. So it's a pretty big bird. If anybody does happen to spot something I do not, feel free to let me know. Just to make sure we keep our safari voices on. Don't want to scare any animals that might get close to the truck. For example, on our left side, there are some greater kudus up on that hill and grazing down here below. Now, greater kudus are a species of antelope. And only male greater kudus have horns, so we know that those that we just saw are females. Now we have headed into the Safi River. One animal that likes to hang out over here is the pink-backed pelican. You might see a few of them on that island right there. Pink-backed pelicans get their name from the pink coloration their feathers get during mating season. Now, the unique thing they do during mating season is they put all of their nests together to kind of create a neighborhood of nests. This is called colonial nesting. It's pretty specific to them. Another animal that likes to hang out around here is the Nile hippo. However, Nile hippos are not the greatest swimmers, so instead they walk along the bottom of the river. So keep your eyes peeled way down below to see if maybe you might spot some at the very bottom of the water there. Sometimes they're very difficult to spot when they are under. They kind of blend in with the shadows of the water. Does look like they may be way below, which is okay. If you get a chance to go on the Gorilla Falls trek, once you leave my truck at the end of the safari, there's a really cool underwater viewing area where you can see them walking at the bottom. Now over here on our left side are also some Nile crocodiles, also hanging out in the water.
Beast.
The Nile crocodiles can average about 16 feet in length once they reach adulthood. And crocodiles are reptiles, which means they are cold-blooded, so they rely very heavily on their environment to regulate their body temperature. For example, we saw the ones that were in the water, but there were also some up on the beach trying to keep cool in the cold shade, the sand. Sometimes we will also see them just kind of sitting with their mouths gaping open. They are not doing this in the hopes of something falling into their mouths, but rather they are pushing all of the hot air out of their bodies, kind of like a dog panting. Now, the tree we just passed is a baobab tree, and that tells me that we are headed into the savannah. Baobab trees get the nickname the tree of life because they can hold tremendous amounts of water inside their trunk, which is very useful out here where water is few and far between. Now, coming up on our right side, I do spot a couple animals right off the bat. Those smaller ones right there are springboks, which are a type of antelope. Also hanging out over there are some Maasai giraffe. Hopefully we'll get a better view of them as I do see them kind of scattered around. Now, those springbok antelope get their name from the way they spring up into the air. They can jump about 6 feet vertically or 13 feet horizontally. They also might look very small from where we're sitting, but they can actually average about 100 feet, or 100 pounds, which is roughly, you know, your average household dog. Now off to our left side there are some sable antelope way over there in the corner. They're the symbol of our reserve. In the fight or flight situations they will always choose to fight. They also have backwards facing horns that protect their backs from predators that might jump on them. Also over here are some wildebeest. Wildebeest get their name from the Afrikaans word for wild beast. They really like to hang out together as well, and during migration season they can actually make herds upwards of 1.5 million in number. Now all these Maasai giraffes that we are driving around, they can get between 18 and 20 feet tall once they reach adulthood. So we leave the tree pruning to them. They're very good arborists, and they do it for free. All they ask for are treats in return.
Look how dark they are.
And much like the okapi that we saw earlier, these giraffes have a prehensile purple tongue, which allows them to strip branches of leaves. Because of this, a lot of animals sometimes like to hang out right below them and catch the things that they have dropped. Also hanging out over here are some eland antelopes. They are the largest species of antelope right there below that zebra. Elands are pretty unique because of what they do during their mating season. Males will stick their heads inside of bushes and shake their heads vigorously in order to get stuff wrapped around their horns. They do this to make flower crowns around the tops of their heads, and the best flower crown wins the ladies. It's a pretty cool thing to see.
That's normal.
Also, if you can Google a picture, sometimes they get the craziest things stuck in their heads. On our left side, I do spot a mandrill right back there near the wall. Mandrills are pretty cool because they are very brightly colored primates.
Rafiki is, isn't it?
Now both males and females will actually have those colors on their faces and their bottoms. However, males are just a little bit brighter, so more easy to see from the distance that we're at. But if you were to get really up and close personal, which I would highly not recommend, you would be able to see one on a female as well. Now that is an African elephant hanging out. African elephants will use those big old ears on the sides of their head to cool themselves down by pushing air around their bodies.
I could use to do that now.
Elephants live in a matriarchal society, so normally when we see one elephant by themselves, sometimes we'll presume that that is a male because usually the big families are made up of only females and the younger baby males. Once males reach adulthood, they will leave their mother's herd to go out on their own. They have been known to create little bachelor herds, but they are normally very small, not nearly as large as the matriarch herds. And I'm sure everybody has heard the phrase, an elephant never forgets, and that is entirely true. Elephants have incredible memories. Because of this, matriarchs will pass down knowledge to their eldest daughters so that when they take over the herds, they know the best places to find food and water, and they pass it on generation to generation so they can always try to do their best to survive and do what's best for the herd every dry season or drought. Like we are passing some more of those baobab trees. You might notice someone way up here has a few of those little potholes on them, which tells me that some animals may have been trying to get at the water that they hold inside their trunk. That's what gives them the nickname the Tree of Life. I do see some more elephants right behind this flamingo pond. Once we come around, you might be able to see them off there in the distance. Now, these are some greater flamingos that we are passing. And they are not born with that fabulous pink color, but actually they get it as they get older from the brine shrimp they eat, which has keratin in it. Also, fun fact, that little knob in the middle of their leg that looks like a knee is actually their ankle bone. Everything below it is just feet bones.
Feet
they have
bones.
really big feet. Now it does look like there are some white rhinos napping over there in the shade. White rhinos do not get their name for their coloration, as they are obviously not white, but rather a mistranslation of an Afrikaans word "weit," which means wide. It's referring to their wide upper lips. Because they are grazers, that upper lip comes in very handy and allows them to pick up a lot of greens off the ground at once.
They are
And when
hovering
you're
in the
trying to
shade.
be energy efficient, you definitely want to utilize all the resources you have to you, and that allows them to eat a lot of food at once, which is very beneficial. Now, unfortunately, rhinos are highly endangered due to poaching for their horns. This is because of a misunderstanding in many cultures as to what their horns are made of, which is the same material that our fingernails and our hair is. It's keratin. So it's about as abundant as we are, and we know that we are very
It's
abundant.
awful hot out. I don't know if we're going to be able to see the lines or not.
So it's really important to make sure that we are spreading that information as much as possible so we can protect those rhinos from any further poaching and subsequent endangerment of their species. There's another rhino on our right. Oh, a couple of them actually. Oh, and actually, if you look way back there in the shade, you might be able to spot some female ostriches standing up. They look kind of like giant blobs with necks, but if you can spot them. We know those are female ostriches because of the color of their feathers. The male ostriches are a very vibrant black color, whereas females will be that heathered gray in their feathers. They are also the largest flightless birds, but that does not mean that their wings are useless. In fact, when they are running, they will use them to kind of steer themselves, almost like a rudder on a boat. Oh, and on our left side, I actually spot somebody up on that hill. Those are some warthogs, otherwise known as Pumbaa. Now, warthogs are actually very closely related to domesticated pigs, so they are very, very smart. In fact, they know that they can best utilize their time and their energy by reusing the dens that other animals have already created. So they'll go and they'll find abandoned dens in mud and in crevices, and they will reuse those as their own homes. They also know that their most fearsome quality is those tusks on the front of their face. So when they are going to bed at night, they will actually back into their dens with their tusks facing outwards, so they can prevent any predators from coming and hurting them in their sleep, but also protect their den from any other critters that might be looking for a place to sleep at night. Now this is our warden's outpost out here, and I do see some furry friends hanging out right here in the corner. I imagine there's probably some, oh yes, there's more up on the hill up there. These are some Nigerian dwarf goats. Looks like they're hanging out in this shade. I don't blame them. Because they're small size, they make for an excellent farm animal because they don't take up a lot of land. They also have very big and friendly personalities, just like any other species of goat. There's a great view of them. If you're a fan of the goat, I suggest going and checking out Rafiki's Planet Watch after you get off of my truck, as the last train out there does leave at 4:30. And up there is the affection section, which is the only place in the park where you are actually allowed to pet animals. If you want to check out the Gorilla Falls Trek or the Maharaja Jungle Trek, those both close at 6:30. So you have plenty of time to check those out before the end of your day. And last but not least, probably one of the biggest places where you can check out is actually Discovery Island itself, which is where the large tree of life is. There are several little habitats over there. The cotton-top tamarins live over there with their newborn twins, and there are some kangaroos and otters and lemurs. Lemurs also hang out over there.
That's going to be the end of our little tour.
If you get a chance to go over to Creature Comforts or Starbucks today and you order a flat white, either iced or cold, they will actually give the proceeds back to the Cotton Top